Welcome. All right, so let's change that screen so we can write this work properly. But this is chapters 4.1 through 4.3. It is the pre-assessment, and we're going to focus on writing equations in linear form, and those linear formats will be slope-intercept form, point-slope form, and let's go. So they're going to give us different pieces of information. They're going to give us coordinates. They're going to give us a graph with coordinates. They're going to give us lines with other information. So it says write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So very, very important that we, number one, notice what format they want us to write it in. If they're not specific, then we have choices. In this case, we must write it in slope-intercept form. So it must be in y equals mx plus b. Y is isolated. And then we're going to fill in information for these two pieces of these two variables. That is my slope, and b represents my y-intercept. So from the given information, can I calculate the slope or figure out the slope, and can I figure out the y-intercept? Well, the slope is going to be the rise over run from one point to the other. So I'm going to go up 1, 2. So I go up 2, and then I'm going to go left 1, 2, 3, 4. So left 4, up is positive, left is negative. So that tells me that my slope is -1/2. I must simplify my fractions. And now I need to find the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. So there is my y-intercept, and I take my y value from there. So my y-intercept is going to be +1. So the equation in slope-intercept form for the line containing those points is going to be y equals -1/2 x plus 1. As easy as that. Now we can do it a little bit faster. We still want it in slope-intercept form. I'm going to use my template. I'm going to figure out the slope. Up 2, right 3. Up 2, right 3 gives me a slope of 2/3. And then my y-intercept is crossing the y-axis at 3, so it's +3. And this, if you do it enough times and you're proficient at it, it's going to take you that many seconds to do. It shouldn't take you a long time. A landlord charged $865 per month to rent an apartment in 2010. That's a data point. The rent increased at a constant rate and reached $1,065 per month in 2018. Estimate the monthly rent in 2021. So a couple ways we can do it. We can look at these data points and we can say 2010, 865. So this is in year and then monthly rent format. And we could take both of those data points and we could write them in that format. That's one way of writing that data. Another way is we could have written it 10, 865 and 18, 1065. But the one that I'm going to suggest that you use is 865. That's when we start, and then we would have 8, 1065, because 8 years later your rent is there. Now the benefits of using this data is you can find the y-intercept a whole lot easier using this, using that first year as your starting point and your 8 years after that, 2018, as your final, and then it'll help you find your 2021 year. So most of us are going to try to write an equation in y equals mx plus b form. We can write an equation for that information. So we need the slope. So the slope is going to be, this is our x1, y1, x2, y2. So we'd have 1065 minus 865 over 8 minus 0, which gives us 200 over 8. 8 goes into 22 times. 16 minus 4 is 25. So my slope, my rate of change between these 2 points is going to be 25. So my new equation is y equals 25x plus b, and b represents my y-intercept. My y-intercept, remember, my y-intercept is when x equals 0, and oh my goodness, we have the y-intercept. So my y-intercept is going to be 865. So we now have an equation that represents that information. So when I want to find what the monthly rent's going to be in 2021, that is going to be 11 years, because I'm not in this format. I'm not in the 2021. I'm not using the full year, and I'm not the truncated where I just chopped off the first 2. I am in this format where I use this as year 0. And so 21 is, how many? 21 is 11 years after 2010. So I'm going to find when x equals 11. So I plug in 11. 25 times 11 plus 865. 25 times 11 is 275 plus 865. And we get, that's 10, that's 14, 1140. So in 2021, the monthly rate monthly rent would be $1,140 per month. Okay, it's pretty good. I like that question. Now notice this is number 4. It's number 10 in your book, but it's number 4 on the pre-assessment. I messed up. I inserted those problems before 4-2, sorry. But it says determine which of the lines are parallel or perpendicular. Well, parallel, we know that they're going to have the same slope. And perpendicular, we know that it's going to be the opposite, we'll say opposite reciprocal. So we're going to find this slope between these 2 points. So line A, we're going to do 3 minus 4 over 4 minus 0, which is negative 1 over 4. And we could do it that fast. You see how fast I did that? Line B is going to be 0 minus 1 and 4 minus 0, which gives us negative 1/4. So we already know that A and B are parallel. And let's do the third line. Line C. Line C is going to be 4 minus 0 and 4 minus 2, which is 4 over 2, which is 2. Now, these 2 lines, line A and B, are parallel because they have the same slopes. They are not perpendicular to C. So C is just some other line that is neither parallel nor perpendicular, but they do intersect. Let's find this. Determine which of the lines are any parallel. So this time they don't give us points. They give us in standard form. This is in standard form. This is slope form. This is standard form. So let's turn them all into slope-intercept form. I'm going to take line A, which is 2x minus 7y equals 14. We're going to solve for y. Isolate for y is in slope-intercept form, so minus 2x, negative 7y equals negative 2x plus 14. We're going to divide by negative 7. We get y equals 2/7 x minus 2. So that is line A is y equals 2/7 x minus 2. And now we're going to take line C. So line A's or line B is already in slope-intercept form. And let's take line C. Let's write that in red. Line C. And line C is 2x plus 7. Y equals negative 21. So we're going to subtract 2x, isolating for y, 7y equals negative 2x minus 21, divide by 7, we get y equals negative 2/7 x minus 3 is the formula in slope-intercept form. Y equals negative 2/7 x, negative 2/7 x minus 3. All right, so none of these are parallel because none of them have the same slope. And we're just looking at the slope. Slope, the slope, the slope. Now, we know that things that are perpendicular are going to be opposite of each other. So we know A and B are not opposite because they're both positive. So it's either going to be C with B or C with A. So if we're talking about C, so the opposite of negative 2/7 is positive, and the reciprocal of 2/7 is 7/2, so it's positive 7/2. So line B and C are going to be perpendicular to each other. And line A is some other intersecting line. Write an equation of the line that passes through 1, 5 and is parallel to the line y equals negative 4x plus 2. So first thing, parallel, we know that they have the same slope. So we're going to look at this line and we're going to pull out the slope. That's the only piece of information that I need. So I know that the slope of my line that passes through this point is going to have a slope of negative 4. So I start with my template for my line, and now I can fill in the slope because I know that they're going to be the same. And now, remember, I need to fill in for these two things. Well, I can't fill in for B, but I can fill in for X and Y because I have a point. So I'm going to fill that information in. My Y value is 5. My X value is 1. And I can solve now for my y-intercept. So 5 equals negative 4 plus b. We're going to add 4, and we get 9 equals b. So the equation for the line that passes through 1, 5 and is parallel to the line y equals negative 4x plus 2 is y equals negative 4x plus 9. That's number 12. Let's make sure that that is correct, and it is. Very nice. So this point is only going to be true for this equation. It is not going to be true for that, because if it went through both of them, then they wouldn't be parallel. They would be intersecting. So that's a little trick question right there. All right, it's perpendicular, so it's going to have the opposite reciprocal of its slope. So if the slope is negative 2, the slope of my line that is perpendicular is going to be the opposite of negative 2, and it's going to be the reciprocal of 2. So I get positive 1/2 x plus b. I'm going to take this point. I'm going to fill it in for my values so I can solve for b. And I get -3 equals 1 plus b. I'm going to minus 1. I get -4 equals b. The equation is going to be y equals 1/2 x minus 4. Remember, these two lines are not going to have the same slopes because they are perpendicular. They will not share a common. This point, when plugging in here, better come out true, meaning it is on that line. Now we're going to jump back to 4.2. I know that's a little confusing, but we're going to jump back. Now we're dealing with point slope form. Point slope form is this lovely formula. And the way that you might want to remember this is, remember slope equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So we see those tenets in there. Yeah. So write an equation in point slope form of the line that passes through the point for 7 and has a slope of -1. So much like when we plugged in for slope intercept form, we had to fill in for the slope and the intercept. In point slope, we're going to fill in for the point, y sub 1 and x sub 1, and we're going to fill in for the slope. So we're going to fill in that piece of information. It's y minus my y sub 1. My y sub 1 is 7. My slope is -1. X minus my x sub 1, which is 4. And we can leave it like this. I'm okay with that. That's the one time that I'm okay with you writing 1. I'm okay with this also. If you wrote this, that is acceptable also. We are not going to distribute that negative or the -1 into the parentheses and simplify. That would not be point slope format. Write a linear function, f, with the given values. I'm assuming it doesn't say which linear function. Linear functions typically are written f of x equals mx plus b. So I'm going to be writing it in slope intercept form. I know, Mr. Mack, isn't 4.2 on point slope? I know. We'll use point slope to start, and then we'll simplify it over to here. You'll see. So when we see these two functions, we see the input and we see its output. It's very important for you to comprehend what that information is. So we're inputting 10 and we get an output of 5. We input 2 and we get an output of -3. Why is that important? Because now we have 2 points and we can find the slope. So the slope is going to be -3 minus 5 over 2 minus 10. This is my first point. This is my second point. And we're going to subtract the y's over the x's. We get -8 over -8, which gives me a slope of 1. Now neither point, neither point is an intercept. Let's go book. You finally didn't give the y-intercept. So I'm going to use y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1 because I'm given a point. In fact, I'm given 2 points and the slope. So it lends me to believe that this is much easier. I'm going to use this point, and I have y minus its y value, which is 5, equals the slope, which is 1, times the quantity x minus the x value, which is 10, using the first point, using the point 10, 5. Could I have used the second point? Absolutely. Now, this is not a function. It says write a linear function f. So I'm going to have to simplify this. We distribute the 1 to both things. We get x minus 10. I'm going to move the 5 over because I'm going to get y equals x minus 5. And now I'm going to write f of x equals x minus 5. We have done enough function notations to remember that f of x is another way of writing y. So That would be your final answer, f of x. I'm not going to accept this. I'm not going to accept point slope. I'm only going to accept function notation. Write a linear function f, so same thing. Let's write our points. We can do this a little bit faster. 3, -4, 5, -4. We should notice that our y's are the same, so we could automatically write f of x equals -4. If you are an advanced student and very perceptive, you can go there. Some of you will have to do the workout because you didn't see that little doodad. That gives us 0/2, which gives us a slope of 0. Y equals 0x plus b. We can do it a different way, not using point slope. We can take one of those points and plug it in for x and y. So we get -4 equals 0 times 3 plus b. -4 equals 0 plus b. -4 equals b. So I have my slope of 0. I have my y-intercept. And then I can write an equation. Y equals 0x minus 4, which can be written, needs to be simplified to y equals -4. And then we write it in function notation. That's the long way. Write a linear function f with the given value. Well, okay, they really want to drive this point. No pun intended. 3 minus 8, 9 minus 6 gives us -5/3 as our slope. And then let's do, I'm going to do point slope again. Y minus 8 equals -5/3, x minus 6. Y minus 8 equals -5/3, x plus 10. We're distributing to both terms. And then let's add 8. We get y equals -5/3, x plus 18. And let's write it as a function. F of x equals -5/3, x plus 18. What number was that? That was, let's see if I got that right, just to make sure. Oh yeah, nice. Now this is a good question, right? Ax plus by equals c. This is standard form. Standard form. Things we have to remember. A, b, and c must be integers, whole numbers and their opposites, and a must be positive. These are stipulations. That's not to say that books won't give it to you in a different way, but that's understood if you're going to give an answer in standard form. Write this in point slope form, okay, where a and b are non-zero constants. So here's an interesting thing. So point slope, what are two things we need? We need a point and the slope. So if I have this in standard form, I can find the slope by solving for y. If I move this into y equals, I can pull out the slope. So I'm going to subtract ax. That gives me by equals -ax plus c. I'm going to divide by b. And now I have this standard form written in slope-intercept form. So I see that my slope is -a/b. So if I need to write it in point slope form, my point slope template is this. So I can put that in for slope. And then they say pick a point. Well, okay, I don't really have a point. I only have x and y. But you do have a point, and this is where they get a little sneaky. We have this as the y-intercept. Well, we know what the y-intercept coordinate is going to be. It's going to be 0 for x, and that c divided by b is going to be my y-intercept, my y value at that point. So they wanted you to fill that in. So it's minus c/b equals negative A over B times the quantity x minus 0, because that's what my x value and my y value would be. Now, they say in the beginning, A and B are non-zero constants. Well, we know B can't be 0 because it's in the denominator. A technically could be. Nowhere is A in the denominator, and you can have 0. So I'm not sure why they included A in there also, but that's a fun one. You are ordering party hats for New Year's Eve. The table shows the total cost of ordering different numbers of party hats. Determine the total cost of ordering 25 party hats. I know you can continue to do this out and manipulate and stuff like that, but remember, what are we trying to practice in chapters 4.1 through 4.3? We're trying to write equations for information so we can find another piece from the given. So I'd much rather you write these as points and try to find the slope, either put it in slope-intercept form or utilize point-slope form. That's what we would want to do. You want to get better at this. You want to be able to be well-versed at the tools that they're trying to teach you. So I got 5.34 minus 2.67 over 6 minus 3, which gives us 3 in the denominator. Let's do that number, 5.34 minus 2.67, which gives us 2.67. 2.67, let's divide that by 3, 0.89. Okay, so that's our slope. We don't have our y-intercept. Technically, it's going to be 0, 0. Anybody know why my y-intercept would be 0, 0? Because if you buy 0 party hats, it should cost you $0. It's not always the case because sometimes they have service fees. But in this case, it didn't, because if I go back 3, that gives you 0. And that would have, maybe that's not true. Maybe that's not true. Mr. Mack, jump to conclusions. Stop trying shortcuts, Mr. Mack. Do the work. Y equals mx plus b. I know what my slope is, 0.89. And let's pick an x and a y. I'm going to pick my first point using 3 comma 2.67. So 2.67 equals my slope times 3 plus b. And we get 2.67 equals 2.67 plus b minus 2.67 minus 2.67. I was correct, but I feel 100% certain because I did the work. So the equation for this is y equals 0.87x. So if I want to find for 25 hats, and maybe we can do h, and we can do c for cost, that would be a better one. And so if I want to find for 25 hats, it's going to be 87 cents per hat, and I want 25 of them. So is it 8.9 or 8.7? Yikes. 8.9. Hello, Mr. Mack. I know you were wondering, where did 8.7 come from? Well, it came from Mr. Mack making a mistake. So 8.9 times 25 gave us $22.25 and 25 cents. So for 25 hats. 25 hats. No service charge of buying hats. Determine the total cost. We got it. Yes. Nice job. Good luck.